The Raiders start to prepare for Week 7 action versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and they still ride the theme that we've been talking about all week long, building off their Week 6 victory. How exactly do they do that? That plus more on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for October 15th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show grows each and every day because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you, 707-654-4693. We'll hear your calls and texts. We close out the show. Segment number 3, as we normally do. Of course, on tomorrow, we'll have Crossover Thursday, officially turning the page to the Chiefs. So we won't have calls and texts on tomorrow's show. Then we'll close out the week on Friday really strong, getting back to hearing from you. But today, segment number 3, we'll hear from you. Calls, texts, all that good stuff. Segment number 3. Segment number 2, we continue with the building theme, something that Pete Carroll's been trying to do since he arrived with the Raiders back in January, something John Spytek has been trying to do when he arrived with Pete Carroll back in January. So how do they go about doing it? How do they go back to looking at the success and the winning traits that they showed on Sunday and translate that not just against the Titans, but against every team that they face? We'll break that down and talk about it. Segment number 2. Here is segment number 1, news and notes of the day. Really a couple practice squad moves that the Raiders made and letting you know when they get back to the practice field and when we can hear from head coach Pete Carroll and others. Plus, we'll take you inside the Raiders locker room. So we got all that to get to. We'll do it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So first, we'll get to the housekeeping part of the show. The Raiders signed McClendon. They signed McClendon Curtis to the practice squad. You probably said, hey, that name sounds familiar. Well, he should. The Raiders signed him as an undrafted free agent, the offensive lineman, back in 2023. At cutdowns, they put him on the practice squad. And then Pete Carroll and the Seahawks actually signed him to the active roster off the Raiders practice squad. So he's bounced around the league with the Seahawks, Giants, and Cardinals, spent all of 2024 in Seattle, and now he's back with Pete Carroll, now with the silver and black. But pretty funny how things all work out. Again, McClendon Curtis, a big fella, 6'6", 330, right? A guy that I remember back in 2023 when the Raiders signed him as undrafted free agent. It's like, yeah, this guy might develop into something, right? He comes from a small school, right? And so you kind of think that maybe, with some learning, some time on the practice squad, right? He might be able to turn into something. And Pete Carroll and company thought the same thing as they signed him off the Raiders practice squad. And I remember that year in 2023, the Raiders actually lost a couple of their players on the practice squad to the Seattle Seahawks as they signed them to the active roster. So McClendon Curtis was one of those guys. Remember Charles Grant, Caleb Rogers, the guys that were drafted in this past year's draft. Charles Grant coming from a small school as well, William and Mary. Caleb Rogers coming from Texas Tech. Those guys, they'll probably see some action sooner rather than later. They're on the active roster. So I'm assuming that if there's going to be any, changes that are going to be made or any additions to the offensive line, unless you see these guys come in and, maybe the tackle eligible type role, right? The jumbo package that you saw Alex Kappa come in when the Raiders were first and goal on the 2-yard line, even though Chip Kelly decided he wanted to throw the ball to him. That's what he was going to do. Not a good idea. But you might see some package like that with a guy like Charles Grant, maybe even Caleb Rogers. But again, if I think that any kind of moves are going to be made, it would probably be after this Chiefs game, going into the bye week when they have a little bit extra time to work on, at least with the coaching staff, right? So that's kind of my gut feeling if there's going to be any moves that are made. Not saying that there are going to be. So to make that move and that addition to the Raiders practice squad, they had to release somebody. So they released the punter, Brad Robbins, from the practice squad. He was signed as A.J. Cole Insurance last week when none of us knew if A.J. Cole was going to play on Sunday or not. He ended up playing, even though his ankle is still a little bit swole. But obviously he's a trooper and was able to get through it. He was able to punt, be out there as the holder. And, just I got to give him a lot of credit for being able to go through and muscle through all the issues and all the injury that he was dealing with that ankle injury after getting it blocked in Week 5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I want to take you back inside the Raiders locker room. On yesterday's show, you heard from Elandon Roberts, big-time linebacker, big-time leader in that Raiders locker room. And I feel like that whole linebacking core is part of that leadership group. That's the Raiders and their defense, obviously led by Max Crosby, but E-Rob, Jamal Adams, Devin White, I feel like all those guys are big-time leaders in the locker room. So Paul Gutierrez from Raiders.com and myself both had an opportunity after the game on Sunday to catch up with Jamal Adams. Here's that conversation.
How needed was this to come out of this with the win today?
Man, it was much needed, man. Obviously, you drop a couple games, man, outside starts to turn on you. Inside, we start to question a lot of things. But at the end of the day, man, it's the NFL, man. Any given Sunday, anybody can get beat, you know what I mean? So no matter the competition, no matter what the record is on the other side, we got to show up because, at the end of the day, man, you can drop them, you know what I mean? So this was a huge win for confidence boost. And obviously, we got a tough one next week dealing with Kansas City. But, man, for the most part, getting back on track, that's the most positive thing we can do.
Patrick Graham last week was talking about turnovers, and he said he didn't want to talk about it no more. Just want to go get it. He said, F it, just go get them.
Yeah.
What is it about getting turnovers and how they just kind of come in bunches at times?
Yeah, man, obviously, it changes the game, momentum, right? You know what I mean? And obviously our D-line did a hell of a job today. Devin White, obviously he had his sack, his strip sack. Those things like that, they changed the game. They changed the momentum. They flipped the field and, put our offense in position to go score. Whether if they aren't having the best game, we can put them in position to go score. That's what we do as a defense, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is getting the ball back in our offense's hands so they can go down and score.
That's that complimentary football you guys are preaching.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. When you guys are going through the tough times, and everybody says, well, we got to learn from it that one day and then we go on the next. How easy is it then to flip that script when you're coming off a win?
Well, at the same time, we still got to stay even keel, right? We did win, but at the same time, we got to go back to work. You know what I mean? We can enjoy this for 24 hours, but we got to go back to work, so we can't get too high. You can't get too low in this game. And like I say, any given Sunday, man, we got to, go out and prepare and prepare to win.
Is that mentality easier to maintain with the veterans that's in the locker room, like you, like Devin,
like
E-Rob, Max?
I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy, man.
Probably nothing easy.
Yeah, I don't think nothing's easy, right? You know what I mean? But I think it's easy to preach it, right? But at the end of the day, we got to go do it.
Yeah.
And most guys don't obviously know how to continue to win and continue to keep that mindset, right? And not let it get above and beyond and just stay even keel, you know what I mean? So for us veterans, we got to keep them down, keep them humble, stay even keel, and just go back to work. Enjoy it, but go back to work.
How did Coach Carroll keep you guys all together? You've been with him multiple times.
Yeah.
How does he keep just everyone together when there could be downtime if there was?
Yeah, I think for the most part, man, Pete, he's the same, man. He ain't going to change. He's a positive guy, right? But, he hones in on the details of what we need to correct. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're grown enough in here to know what we got to correct and what we got to do. We got, that's just the nature of the game, right? We grown men. So at the end of the day, we got to clean up the details, and which we did, and we came out victorious.
Real quick conversation with Jamal Adams, but again, just kind of reiterating why that win was so important. And you heard him say, people on the outside start turning against you. Guys in the locker room, we can start questioning this, that, and the other. Got to see some success. I say it all the time. I use the basketball reference. Sometimes you just need to see the ball go through the hoop. Sometimes you need to take it to the cup, get to the free throw line, and shoot a couple free throws and see them go through. Then, you feel like you have some confidence moving forward. That's going to be part of the conversation we have coming up. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I did want to let you know that the Raiders are getting back to practice today. Start to turn the page and prepare for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the coaches have already done that. Obviously, there's been some film work already been going on, but they're back on the practice field today. We'll talk to head coach Pete Carroll, quarterback Geno Smith, and running back Ashton Jeanty starting at 12:15 in the indoor facility. The locker room will be open as well, so we'll have an opportunity to talk to some of the players. Hopefully, it'll be like last week where we got a bunch of players in the locker room leading up to the game against Tennessee. Hopefully, it's the same way today as well. Then we'll talk to Patrick Graham and offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. We'll do that on Thursday, and then Pete Carroll once again coming up on Friday. But today, Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, Ashton Jeanty, and open locker room. Coming up in segment number 2, how the Raiders could build off the success that they had on Sunday versus Tennessee Titans. It never matters the opponent you're playing. It's always about you. So what can the Raiders do for them to continue to build off what they saw work? And like I said, the ball go through the hoop on Sunday. We'll talk about that. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
I also want to tell you about FanDuel. The NFL season's here. FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So many ways to use across the app. You could build parlays. You could try player props, which I know a lot of people love the player props, right? Ask Genti, how many yards? Is he going to get multiple touchdowns? Whatever the case may be. Who's going to get the first touchdown in this game between Kansas City and the Raiders? You can even follow the live lines during the games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to continue with the theme that we've been really having ever since the Raiders won on Sunday, and that's build, build, build. Like Bob the Builder, that's what Pete Carroll's trying to do. He's trying to build a winning program. He's trying to build a winning organization with a winning culture, something that all the other coaches have tried to do and have failed to do. Pete Carroll was hired to do it. He's got a track record of winning. He's got the proof that's there. That's what we spent all offseason talking about. He's got winning traits. Right? They hired Chip Kelly coming from national championship at Ohio State. He was a winner, right? There's a reason why guys get signed off of teams that just won as free agents, right? How many times in the past have the Raiders, signed the Super Bowl MVP, right? Signed them as a free agent because they're a winner and they're trying to get those winning traits into the organization. Obviously, the Raiders didn't go out in free agency and spend a lot of money, but they're trying to get guys that expect to win in the organization. They're trying to get the guys in the organization, especially the young guys, to have that mentality of expecting to win. So the question I threw out there on my radio show on Tuesday on Unnecessary Roughness on Raider Nation Radio 920 was, how do the Raiders build off this win? How do they take the positives and the success that they had and keep building off that? And what I mean is, whatever you saw that you did well, when the players went back and looked at the tape, when the coaches went back and looked at the tape, starting with the coaches, let's start with Chip Kelly. Right? What plays worked well and what plays didn't. And again, it doesn't matter that it was the Tennessee Titans. It was, what are you trying to create? Habit forming. Winning is habit forming. Winners are winners for a reason. What do we always say about teams that find ways to win? Good teams find ways to win. You know why? Because they expect to win. They don't hit the field and wonder if they're going to win. They expect to win. You know what else is habit forming? Losing. Right? And I used the example on my radio show, Bradley Beal, when he was a member of the Washington team. Right, in the NBA. I thought, and I think he's a really good, talented player, but he spent so much time in Washington that he just, I don't want to say became a loser, but he picked up losing traits, right? When you've been around losing mentalities and people that continue to lose, that's what you fall into. Like they always say, if you can't change the people around you, you need to change the people around you. That's because the people around you that are bringing you down aren't the ones that are going to help you. Obviously, this is a team. This is an organization. This is a team that's been down in the dumps for a while. And many coaches have tried to instill that winning mentality in them. So what do? They go out and bring in Tom Brady, who's what? A winner, right? They go in and bring a lot of successful businessmen in to be part of the ownership. Why? Because they're winners, right? I mean, that's just what they do. They've won in whatever their field is that helps them be very successful. They know what success looks like. And Pete Carroll's the same way. And I know that we spent all summer singing the praises of Pete Carroll and what he was going to do. And then they get out to a bad start and they start out 1-4 and everyone's like, oh, he's too old. Get rid of him. He stinks. This guy's senile. Just everything. Because I know Raider Nation is tired of losing. So that's the knee-jerk reaction. But what this guy has done and proven is that his methods, they do work, and he can find a way to win. Just like he said after the game, who said this wasn't going to work? And I know that everyone might not always buy in and always believe. Sometimes you need to see small victories. What's a small victory? What you saw on Sunday against Tennessee, right? But they also, every player that we talked to in the locker room said that's how they practiced. They went and cleaned up what they were working on, and they got back at it. So again, it's never against the opponent. Every coach I talk to always tells me, Q, it's not about who we're playing. It's us. It's all about us. We have to go out there and play really good insert team football or basketball, whatever the case may be. In this case, it's Raider football. So Chip Kelly's got to be crisp and clean with his play calling, right? He's got to know what Geno's doing really well, what Trey Tucker's doing really well, how Jacoby Myers is being used correctly, how Ashton Jeanty is being used correctly. You know what? I don't think it's a coincidence. The more he touches the ball, the better that they're playing. I also don't think it's a coincidence when he's hitting the outside and getting them one-on-one with the cornerback that's got to make a business decision, and he lowers the boom and runs them over, right? So all the times that you see him running between the tackles and it's not working, hey, guess what? Bounce it outside a few times. That's working, okay? Jot that down. That's a play. That's a play that you can go to when you need something, right? That little shovel pass that Geno had to Jeanty to get him going. I mean, he picked up like 7 yards before he even blinked, right? I mean, those kind of plays are successful plays. Michael Mayer, seeing him over the middle, successful play, right? What can you do that you can maximize? You know, hey, this is the go-to play. If we need something, if we need 4 or 5 yards, this is what we're going to go to, or some version of it. If we have success throwing to Michael Mayer over the middle, all right, maybe the same type of play but to the right, or whatever the case is. Whatever the playbook calls, flip it. But those are basically, you build off that. The defense, getting pressure on the quarterback. Playing with the lead was a big deal. Adam Butler told us that in the locker room last week. One way that they can start getting pressure on the quarterback, because that's how Patrick Graham's defense is built, is by playing with the lead. Then the Adam Butlers, the Jonah Laulus, the Max Crosbys, the Malcolm Kuntzes, the Tyree Wilsons, they can pin their ears back and try to get to the quarterback. But if they're playing from behind the whole time, like they've been playing during their 4-game losing streak, you're not going to have an opportunity to do that, because most teams are just going to quickly get the ball in their hands if they're throwing the ball, or they're going to run the rock, not take that chance of getting one of those bloodthirsty Pirates to get after them, right? So how did you have success? How did you keep, Cam Ward in the pocket? Because this week going up against Patrick Mahomes, he's going to try to run. He prefers to run up the gut, right? That's where a guy like Butler and Jonah Laulu got to be big. They've got to be able to collapse that pocket. He also can run on the outside, so you got to break, you don't want him to break contain. So again, there's the fence method, right? You got to keep him fenced in the pocket and collapse that thing so it gets uncomfortable. When it gets uncomfortable, and look, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did it in the first Super Bowl when they defeated Kansas City. Philadelphia did in the last one when they defeated Kansas City. You make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable, you rattle him, you make him run around for his life, good things can happen for you and your defense. Mistakes can happen. And it's going to be tough. And I know the Raiders defense is not what the Philadelphia Eagles was last year. I get that. But they still have guys that can make plays, right? Kansas City has speed. They have speed coming back. And Rashee Rice, he's going to be back now. They've got Xavier Worthy. He's got speed, right? They may have to beat him up on the line of scrimmage. They might have to bump and run him as opposed to let him get started into his zone, right? Because you don't really want to let a fast guy get going fast, because fast guys will run past you fast, right? But what did they see on film that they were able to do and kind of hang their hat on? Those are the kind of things. Winning type plays. Geno playing that fine line of, you don't want to necessarily be a check down Charlie, because then you'll hear about that, but then you don't want to get reckless with the ball. So how can you be efficient and aggressive at the same time without reckless, right? That's a fine line that he's got to work, but he's got to figure out how to be, a smarter quarterback and know that, hey, this team goes as he goes. Right? Again, I think Ashton Jeanty, especially with Brock Bowers out, needs to be the focal point. You need to have a lot of attention on Big Mike. I think Jack Besh, Jacoby Myers, those are guys that can keep moving the chains. So you don't necessarily have to stretch the field and go for the home run play. You could just go for what is going to extend the drive. Keep your drive going. Have some long, sustained drives and have more success when you're in the red zone. Have some plays that you feel comfortable with going to where you can have that success where you're not settling for 3, because 3s aren't going to get it done against KC. It's just not going to happen. They're getting better offensively. You can see it. They're getting more comfortable, and they're getting another weapon back. So 3s aren't going to do it, right? You're going to need to put up 6s and get the extra point. It's just that simple. You're going to need multiple touchdowns. The offense that you had against Tennessee is not going to win you this game coming up against Kansas City. But it's all about how you practice. They're on the practice field today. If they get after it and they're going full throttle, they're going fast, they're playing clean, not making mistakes, and like Eric Stokes told us in the locker room that they had gone 2 turnover Thursdays. Remember the themes that I had talked about? Even when we got the training camp schedule and they had all these themes for a different day, turnover Thursday. That means the offense doesn't turn the ball over and the defense goes and creates turnovers. He said as a defense, the last 2 weeks, this is headed into the Titans game, the defense hadn't created any turnovers. Guess what? You practice how you play, and you play how you practice. So they weren't creating any turnovers in practice. It was not a surprise that they weren't creating turnovers in the games. And then all of a sudden on Sunday against the Titans, when they had a good turnover Thursday, I bet you they had a good turnover Thursday, they go and create some turnovers, right? Because Devin White said, we practiced the play that he got the strip sack on. We practiced that. The only thing that he didn't do was he didn't hit the quarterback. That's the only thing that happened in practice that didn't happen in the game, or it did happen in the game that didn't happen in practice. Exactly what he did to Cam Ward on the 2-yard line where the Raiders ended up getting the ball first and goal, where he got to the quarterback and strip sacked him. He did the exact same thing to Geno Smith in practice, except for he didn't hit the quarterback. But it was the same results. It was the same way they ran that play defensively and came up with the same results. So again, it's not like I'm making something up and trying to sell you some champagne wishes with malt liquor money. That's their words, not mine. They practice a certain way and the results showed. But you have to keep putting that together, and that's going to be up to the leadership. It's funny. I talked to John McClain on my radio show on Tuesday, and he had mentioned that the Texans were 0-3. Then they took on the Titans, and they won. And that was the first win. They won pretty well, just kind of like the Raiders did on Sunday. Then they went to Baltimore and took on the Ravens, and we know the Ravens' defense isn't very good, but they put up 40 points. Okay, now they're on a little bit of a roll. They built off that victory over Tennessee, even though Tennessee's not a good team. Doesn't matter. They still built off that. And we've seen the Raiders lose to teams like Tennessee, right? Like PE in North Carolina called last Friday and thought, hey, man, this is a perfect game. This is a perfect Patrick Graham game where make the other quarterback look really good and don't do what you're supposed to do. They didn't do that. They didn't allow that to happen. Right? We talk about the Denver Broncos and how they look really good. They barely got past the Tennessee Titans. Right? So, you take that and you start to build. So now what John was saying, okay, now they won 2 in a row. Now they've got Seattle. If they all of a sudden go and beat Seattle and they're sitting there at 3-3 overall record, they're saying, hey, the launching point, the starting point was that not very good team, the Tennessee Titans, that they got a W against. And that started to trend them in the right direction. Obviously, Kansas City is a tough out. It's a division rival, but the Raiders always play them tough, especially in Kansas City. So now they have a little bit of confidence. They have a little bit of belief, and now they have to continue to exercise what they did really well. How they got the ball out of Geno's hands, how they got the ball to the playmakers, especially Ashton Genty, and made some things happen. And on top of that, how their defense made big plays. I don't think they're going to be able to play a soft zone and get away with it against Kansas City. I just don't. I think they're going to have to be a lot more aggressive and a lot more sticky on defense, but that's something that we'll find out. We'll start to do some deep diving coming up tomorrow on the crossover edition. The one thing I do know is the Chiefs aren't very good at stopping the run this year. Yeah, I got a big smile on my face when I said that. They're not very good at stopping the run this year. So what does that mean to me? That means that Ashton Genty should get a heavy workload. 23 carries is what he had last week. Would love to see him get 23, 25, 30 carries. Because if that happens, then they're playing exactly what they want to do, and they're in that game or they're winning that game. The more carries for Genty, the better. That means that the Raiders are doing what they want to do. And again, it starts with Chip Kelly calling the right plays. Right? Offensively, that's how they build on that. Defensively, they just got to know their keys and know their assignment and keep going to work. And we know Max and Patrick Mahomes have that built-in rivalry, right, where they hate each other on the field, but they respect the hell out of each other off the field. They know they see greatness. Patrick respects Max's greatness. Max respects Patrick's greatness. But on the field, those guys are arch nemesis, arch rivals, and I'm here for it. Coming up in segment number 3, what's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show, 707-654-4693. We hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor, and that is Gametime. With the NFL season back and we're already going into week 7, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans and cheering on your team. But let's be honest, man, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, prices jumping at checkout, it can be frustrating. That's why you use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. What's that mean? You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. The app is super simple. You can see the exact view from your seat before you buy them. Zone deals. You pick the section, Gametime picks the seats, and you save big. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that you'll buy tickets. Right now, download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. The terms do apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with Paul the Barber. He's calling to talk about the win, no matter how it looked, and the reality of what it is, what it really boils down to. Here he is, Paul the Barber.
Yo, what's up, Q? It's Paul the Barber calling in. It is victory week. The Raiders got the win. I just want to call in and talk about a little bit about Raider Nation calling in yesterday, and people on Twitter or whatever the case is, just unhappy about the win. And man, I think we just got to relax a little bit, man. We got to relax a little bit, and we can't complain, man. We won the game. And Q, what is it that you always say at the end of every episode? Just win, baby. And they did that, man. The famous Al Davis has said, just win, baby. Ugly, good, however it looks, man, we won the game. And I know it's the Titans. I know they're part of one of the worst teams in the league, and I heard people calling in and say we should have steamrolled these guys. We should have demolished these dudes. But what evidence shows that we were capable of doing that. We weren't capable of blowing this team out based off the way we played the last few weeks. I knew it was going to be an ugly game. I had a feeling we were going to win, but I knew it was going to be ugly. And just when you look across the league, man, you had the Packers at home against the Bengals, against Joe Flacco, who just got there that week. They didn't blow them out. That was a 9-point win. That was an ugly win for the Packers. You had the Colts, who were at home, who just steamrolled us, playing a Jacoby Brissett led team with the Cardinals. The Cardinals looked terrible. They struggled with them, beating them by 4. You had the Rams, against the Ravens without Lamar Jackson. They had Tyler Huntley playing. They had Cooper Rush playing, and they struggled to score against the Ravens. 17-3, ugly win. Ravens were down 7 starters on defense. So, got the Broncos, who should have blown out the Jets. Ugly win for them. So just all across the league, it's a week-to-week league, Q. It's a week-to-week league, Raider Nation. You take them as they come, man. Ugly, good. The Raiders got the job done, man. It's a collective effort. It's a team effort, special teams, defense, offense, whatever the case was. I agree with you, though. Chip Kelly's got to be better with calling certain plays in certain situations. I wasn't a fan of the trick play to Alex Cappa myself. I was like, we are not that good to be calling trick plays like that. But all in all, we won the game, Raider Nation. Relax, man. It's a new week. It's Chiefs week. I know we always get up. Max Crosby gets this team ready to play the Chiefs. So I'm looking forward to that. So, Raider Nation, better days are coming, man. Hopefully this is the start of something, of a little win streak. Let's go, baby. Just win.
Paul, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And, yeah, man, you know how difficult it is to win. Of course, we all would have loved to see a blowout. It didn't happen. The fact that they won, big deal. As you heard from multiple players so far this week, from Landon Roberts, Devin White, Jamal Adams, right? Again, it's habit forming. Winning is habit forming. You can also create bad habits when you're losing. You don't want to get in that funk. Like the Cleveland Browns, they're in that funk where they're just losing, right? And that's why they've gone through as many quarterbacks as they have. And the Raiders have been in that funk. They don't want to be there. They lost 4 in a row. They had to stop the bleeding. So at some point, you have to expect to win. When you step on the field, you have to expect to win. That's what the Raiders have to do. That was really the point of what I was talking about in segment number 2. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Down South Raider. Down South, where I stay. Okay, don't get me started on that again. You know how that goes. That lasted for like a week last time. I better not start that again. Q, Down South Raider here. You bring it every day, bro. Raider Nation appreciates you. But you surprised me with this one. One game ball, don't get me wrong. Devin White straight balled out. 45 deserved that game ball, no doubt. But 2 other guys earned game balls. Number 1, A.J. Cole. 6 had a bad ankle, but was suited up and pinned the tight inside the 20 time and time again. On a day when our offense struggled, Cole was our most consistent weapon. Number 2, Big Michael Mayer. Comes back from injury, scores touchdown, multiple catches, didn't allow a punt block. We're going to need 87 down the stretch, and he showed that he could be depended on. Let's go, Q. It's Chiefs week. Let's handle our business and be 3-4 on the bye. Down South Raider out. Thanks so much for the text. Appreciate that. Yeah, I just didn't want to point out everybody. Like I mentioned on Monday when I handed out game balls, there was a handful of dudes that deserve game balls, right? AJ Cole, Big Mike, you named 2 of them. I just wanted to just hand out one. That's all, especially when it wasn't a dominant performance, but it was a win. You know, I decided I would hand out one and want to go ahead and pass the sticks on and let other folks chime in and pass them out as well. So that's the reason why. But there was definitely guys. I mean, I could have made a case for Ashton Genty getting a game ball, right? Just because of what he was able to do. Jonah Laulu, Kirk Morrison, when he joined my radio show on Monday, he called him the Raiders player of the game for the pressure that he was able to create, the sack that he was able to get, the way that he was flying around the field defensively. Like, he gave him a game ball. You know, or skulls and crossbones is what he was calling it, which is cool. Helmet decals. That's awesome. So he gave it to him. So there's plenty of guys that we could have singled out. I was just trying to single out one myself and allow others to single him out as well. So thanks for the text. Definitely appreciate that. Up next, got a call from Raider Renegade, Joey B. He's calling to talk about this team, getting the stink out of the organization, and creating that winning culture. Here he is, Raider Renegade, Joey B.
Hey, Q and Ari. This is Raider Renegade Joey B calling from Salt Lake City, Utah. I wanted to call in just regards to the game and just what's going on with this season. I don't know. I think if I had to put my spin on it, it's really difficult to get the stink out of an organization that's so used to losing. I say this as a longtime Raider fan. You got winners that were brought in, people who have won in the past: Brady, Carroll, Chip Kelly. My grandma's used to winning in New England. And getting the stink out of the organization is not a one-year job. I know we as Raiders get excited. You know, my wife says that I'm mad on Sundays, and by Wednesday, I flip the page to the next week, just like the team does. And, you know, we want to win now. We want to see it all happen right away. But all I want to say is, Raider Nation, stay calm. We may not be in the playoffs this year, but we're going to see improvement. And next year and years beyond that, we're going to get the product. Just remember, it takes time to get the stink out of the organization. Anyway, that's all I got, Q. I appreciate your time. Appreciate what you and Ari do. Love listening to you on the daily. Keep up the good work. Peace out.
Joey B, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate that. Yeah, and again, going back to the point of segment number 2, you have to get to finding the winning traits, right? Keep doing the best of what you do. Whatever you do best, keep doing that. You know, the Raiders have to find a way to get rid of the things that they do poorly and fall into the traps of the bad football and get back to the playing the smart football, the winning football. What do they do really well, right? What did they see on film that they did on Sunday versus Tennessee that they can take with them and continue to do and work on? Defense travels, running game travels, all that good stuff. Right? If you can run the ball really well and play good, sound defense, everything else can evolve from there. It could be as simple as that. That could be your base, the running game and strong defense. Sound familiar? That's what Antonio Pierce wanted the Raiders to be last year. Running game, strong defense. Quarterback play, don't get in the way, right? Just compliment them. I expect more from Geno Smith than just a compliment, but you got to walk before you can run. You know, and you got to crawl before you can walk. And right now, I think that he expected to be running 100 miles and running, right? Shout out to NWA. But no, he's not doing that right now. So he's got to be able to get back to basics, you know, do some good, put some good film out there, and then build off that. But right now, the running game and defense could definitely be the way that they really start building on that success. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Eric in the 401. Hey, Q. It's Eric in the 401. I know I'm a day late, but I just wanted to say that I wanted to give my game ball to the entire D-line. They balled out. And at first, I felt a lot like you did. Like it was a win, but kind of ho-hum. But after listening to Monday's show and hearing what E-Rob had to say on Tuesday's show, I'm feeling a lot differently. Sure, the offense didn't look explosive, but it's progress in the right direction. We won a game that we were supposed to win. There's been plenty of times that we lost those games in the past, so I'm excited for it. Nervous about the Chiefs game, but in a good way. Instead of, you know, we're going to get blown out way. And who knows, we still might, but at least as fans, we can go into this week's game with a little bit of confidence instead of whatever the opposite of confidence is. Also, that book you talked about on Unnecessary Roughness, Only God Could Judge Me, sounds like a great read. I'll have to see if I can get it on Audible so I can listen while I drive. That's from Eric in the 401. And yeah, that book is from Jeff Pearlman. It's a Tupac book coming out on October 25th called Only God Could Judge Me. I actually had Jeff on there talking about it. And man, you want to hear some stories. He was fantastic, man. I would love to be able to bring some of that to the podcast, but I just won't have enough time. But man, he was really good. Some of the stories that he learned, he's been writing this book on Pac for the last 2 years, and just some of the stuff that he learned was fantastic. So yeah, that book is going to be great when it drops at the end of the month, coming up October 25th. And I'm with you when it comes to hearing what E-Rob had to say, what Jamal Adams had to say, what Devin White, other players in the locker room. That's what made me realize how big of a win that was, as opposed to, oh, it's just a win over the Tennessee Titans and they're not very good. It was a big win. You're right. There's been many times in the past that the Raiders would have lost that game. So thanks so much for the text. I appreciate that. We'll close it out with a quick positive call from Raider Mike from Temecula. He's calling to compliment the show and the info and how it's delivered. Here he is, Raider Mike from Temecula.
Yes, Q, calling in, new booty caller, Raider Mike from Temecula. All right. Hey, I appreciate all you do, man. Q, you have been the calm in the storm that we've been through all this time, and you keep us in the eye. You keep us level. Appreciate it, man. Keep bringing that true, real word from the players, uncut, uncensored. Anybody else calling in with a different agenda, just turn to another station. We don't need no observations of what you're doing, how you're doing, because we appreciate what you're bringing for the nation. Other than that, peace be out. Raiders, take care of yourself. Keep on keeping on.
Raider Mike, thanks for the call and the compliments. And this is the thing, man. I'm here basically to take anyone who wants to go on the journey with me on that journey, right? That's what I feel like my responsibility is to Raider Nation. Give you the same experience that I get, at least to the best of my ability, right? Everyone's not blessed to be able to sit in the press conference room and talk to the head coach, or go in the locker room and talk to the players, or sit in the press box and watch the games, right? I mean, but I get that opportunity. So what I want to do as a member of Raider Nation, as a fan, as a guy that was just like you, looking for all the information, trying to get it, and there was nothing out there at the time, I'm trying to give you the best, recollection and best journey and trip that I possibly can, and try to help you experience the same things that I'm able to experience. So I'm not an insider. I'm not trying to break news. I'm just trying to deliver to you what I'm being told, what I'm hear from players. And that's why whenever I get good stuff from the Raiders locker room, I like to bring it to the show so you can hear it not from my mouth, but from theirs. So someone, in the basement that's writing whatever stories, you could say, yeah, but that's not what I heard Jamal Adams say. That's not what I heard Landon Roberts say. That's sure not what I heard Devin White say. And oh, by the way, Max Crosby said that was BS. So I'm sure not listening to what so-and-so who claims that they know everything, and look, I don't want to discredit anyone. Everyone's got their grind. Everyone's got their hustle. Everyone, does their own thing. This is just my lane that I'm in, and this is all I expect myself to do. Again, I'm not trying to be no NFL insider, not Adam Schefter. I'm not Ian Rappaport. I'm not even Vinny Bonsignore, who does that all the time. I don't break news. I just try to deliver it the best of my ability, tell you how I feel about the situation, and do it on the daily to keep you up with everything I know, silver and black, just like I used to be sitting there on the computer looking for that same information like many of you. So that'll close out today's show. Thanks for the call, though. Definitely appreciate it, man. That was really good stuff, really positive to close out the show. So we'll be back at the facility today, 12:15. We'll be talking to Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, and Ashton Genty. Supposed to do the Raider Squad show this morning. I think it's going to happen at 7:30 a.m., depending on what time you're listening to this, 7:30 to 8:30. Chantel Chan, Lincoln Kennedy, and myself. Chantel's not able to do it on Thursday, so we pushed it up a day. So it should pop off today at 7:30. And if it doesn't, well, then I'll let you know when we're going to do it on tomorrow's show. But it should be later on, or whatever time you're listening to this, it should be today. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.